Marooned was directed by John Sturges, ended up becoming a very famous director because of The Great Escape and The Magnificent Seven. He was really known for big budget, big scale action movies with good character development. Probably the best of it being Bad Day at Black Rock with Spencer Tracy, Robert Ryan. Sturges was wonderful at working with actors. He really specialized in kind of the more macho, man's man kind of material, and Greg Peck and Gene Hackman in particular really, I think, really responded to his style of direction. He wasn't the flashiest director in terms of camera, but he was one of those guys, definitely from the Howard Hawks school, and William Wyler, who really prided themselves on placing the camera unobtrusively, but to maximize the impact of the drama and the theme. The previous film that Sturges had directed was a huge, it's a guilty pleasure for a lot of people, myself included, a huge adventure movie called Ice Station Zebra. And it was done in the Cinerama process, but not the 3-panel Cinerama process, the Ultra Panavision, like Mad World. Marooned was written by Mayo Simon, who was a playwright and a screenwriter. He, with Saul Bass, had made a great educational series called Why Man Creates. He had somewhat of a science background because of the Saul Bass show, because it was a multi-episode thing about the world, and so he was a perfect choice as well to adapt Martin Caidin's novel. Martin Caidin's novel of Marooned was published in 1964. There's a lot of differences between the novel and the eventual movie. Caidin's novel dealt with a single Mercury capsule dilemma, and by the time the movie, the Apollo program was in full force and everyone knew so much about space travel, so they changed the space vehicle to an Apollo capsule command module, and that's with a crew of 3 as opposed to a crew of 1. And the funny thing is, the novel was rewritten by Caidin and put out as a movie tie-in, but it wasn't the original novel. It used the changes they made for the movie. He actually incorporated them in his novel. Marooned won an Academy Award for visual effects, and rightly so, kind of in the pre-digital age, because almost, you can make a case, almost every shot in the movie is a special effect when you're in space. So it's an incredible amount of special effects material in the movie. Some people criticize the movie for its pace, but if you're totally into the movie and into what the situation would really be, the slow pacing kind of it really does work. And then when Pruitt makes his decision to leave the capsule and leave the other 2 in, it really does have a big impact. The interesting thing about the making of the movie, one of the things would be, and I think it would be extraordinary pressure on the director and all the technical crew. While the movie was being shot, there were actual Apollo missions being launched, and so you knew that you could not get away with special effects wise or just technically, you couldn't get away with things you might have gotten away with even 5 years earlier, because the consciousness in the American public about space travel was so high that you really couldn't revert to some of the old cheats and special effects that you could have gotten away with, in the early 60s even. One of Sturges' great collaborators was a director of photography, Daniel Fapp, who shot The Great Escape, and he had shot Ice Station Zebra, and they worked many times together, and they really had an affinity for really interesting 2.35 widescreen compositions. And a lot of people would say, well, you want to make the space capsule as claustrophobic as possible, why shoot in a widescreen format? Well, that's the argument is exactly that. You can make it, you can wrap those 3 astronauts around the frame much better, and therefore make it more claustrophobic with that aspect ratio. It's funny. You would think a movie that had won an Academy Award from a major studio, that was a moderate. It was a moderate hit. It wasn't a huge breakout hit, but certainly wasn't a flop. You would think a movie like that with big names like, I mean, even David Janssen and the big big TV names, Greg Peck being the big marquee name. You would think a movie like that would be treasured by the studio. When it ended up making its run and then played television all through the 70s and 80s, it finally got dumped, got sold or portioned off to a company called Film Ventures, which was a company originally out of Atlanta, Georgia, run by a guy named Ed Montoro. And they made movies like Grizzly and The Day of the Animals. They ended up being big in television syndication for some reason. So Film Ventures ended up getting the rights to the movie, probably in a fire sale type situation, and retitling the movie Space Travelers. And it played in syndicated television during the 90s. Now a major studio would never let that happen today. To have a movie retitled like that and kind of shunted into a bad syndication package. It's because of that, I guess, why Mystery Science Theater got the movie to begin with. And it's just such an atypical Mystery Science Theater movie in the sense that it's a big budget movie. It's a